Trait tier list for Anime Reborn. I am just waiting for either Anime Reborn or Anime Vanguards to update. You know, really, whichever one wants to come first. I'm waiting. Open arms. Waiting. Anyways, so you have all the traits in Anime Reborn. S being the best, D being the worst. A is good, B is decent, C is mid. You know, we're following the same formula that we usually go for with all my tier lists. So yeah, let's get started with, what is this one called? Warrior. Okay, so this one's pretty standard. It increases your damage by 5, 10, or 15%, depending on whether you get Warrior 1, 2, or 3. And this one's not bad. C tier. The reason I'm not going to put it B+, is just because there are traits that outclass this completely later on. But I think out of all of the basic traits, that being Warrior, Agile, and Sniper, I think Warrior is the best one. Just because universally more damage is good, but more range or more SPA on certain units is kind of like eh. Agile, also C tier, right below Warrior. It's pretty good. Buffs your SPA by 12% if you get Agile 3. So it'll go 4, 8, 12, depending on which Agile you get. And, you know, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. More, like, okay, attacking faster is better on slow units or support units. So it is what it is. Sniper, D tier. I've said this for a lot of tower defense games, and I still think it applies to this game as well. Most of the time, more range is not doing you any favors. 9 times out of 10, I would rather have my unit attack faster or do more damage than have more range. Because the thing about more range is maybe your unit can sneak in an extra attack, but it would be better if your unit just did more damage, or if they just attacked faster. That's my way of thinking. Next up, we have Exploder, 25% more damage. This one's pretty good. Just a flat damage buff, 25% more damage. Nothing that I can really say about this other than it completely outclasses Warrior because it's just a better version of Warrior. They both do the same thing, but this does more damage. So obviously we're going to put it higher than Warrior. Anubis is 17.5% faster SPA, or like less SPA. It makes your unit attack 17.5% faster. Gonna put this, I don't know, I think I'm actually gonna put this above Exploder. I'm not gonna pull out the calculator and do the math here, but I think Anubis provides just a more overall DPS increase, all in all, just because you're attacking a lot faster. These two are interchangeable for me though, so if you disagree with which one's better, you know, let me know in the comments. I'm just going to put Anubis above Exploder for now. Archer, 25% more range. We'll put it top of C tier. But, once again, I firmly believe both of these are better than Archer. And it's the exact same argument that I just gave you with the basic traits. This is literally just the legendary version of these 3 basic traits. Archer is just a better Sniper. Anubis is just a better Agile. And Exploder is just a better Warrior. And, well, what is their fatal flaw? Well, range is kind of mid, damage and SPA are way better, which is exactly why, what is this called? Archer? Yeah. Archer is going to be a tier below him. Now, I will say 25% more range is a lot better than these two, just because the stat buffs just aren't there. So I'll put it above Warrior and Agile, even though it's range, just because 25% more range is a pretty tangible difference. So it'll get top of C tier, but it's not better than Anubis or Exploder by a long shot. Next up, Potential. 40% more XP. Now, here's the thing about this. In Anime Reborn specifically, leveling up your units is slightly harder than other tower defense games. And it's for numerous reasons. Number one, there is a cap on how much food you can get. In other tower defense games, you could AFK macro food all night long and wake up with like 1,000 XP items, and then you can just keep hoarding those and hoarding those and hoarding those. So leveling up units is never really an issue. But in this game, not only do you not get a ton of XP from doing the like stages, it'll take you a while before you get a unit to level 50. On top of that, there's a cap on how much food you can get. Like I said, I think the cap is 200, which if you're farming like a food item that has a lot of value, like the dragon fruit or what, the smile fruit or meat from the One Piece map, yeah, you're gonna get a good amount of XP. But at the end of the day, you can only have a max of 200 or 100 of those. So leveling up units is slightly more of a pain in Anime Reborn. So I'm actually gonna put potential in B tier. Normally, it would be like D tier because it's a trait that's one and done. Once your unit is maxed, this is literally useless. Any trait would be better than this. But out of pure convenience alone, and the fact that this game, I feel like potential or a trait that gives you more unit XP is just more useful in this game than in other tower defense games, I'm going to put it in B tier. Now, I'm not going to put it above Exploder or Anubis because, once again, these just provide buffs that this will not once your unit is max. So it can't be above these, but I'll definitely put it in B tier. Next up, Wealth. Also B tier, probably above Potential for sure. This will give you 25% more yen from farm units or 25% more yen per kill from normal units. So this is just the ultimate economy booster here. Obviously, you want this on both your farm units, Bulma and Speedwagon. Do you want this on normal units? Not really. If you do get it, it's not the end of the world. More money is more useful. Let's say you get this on a cheap starter unit like Tanjiro. Your early game is going to go by a lot faster. It's going to feel like a breeze because Tanjiro's cheap. You place him, he starts murking all the enemies. You're making extra money, which you can in turn invest into your farms, other units, upgrades, etc, etc. So yeah, Wealth is fine. I wouldn't put it above these two though. Slayer. This gives you, this is our first mythic trait here, 25% more damage, plus an innate perk called Giant Slayer. Increases damage dealt to the enemy by 1% for every 2% of their health missing. This is our first A tier perk, or A tier trait. The reason, oh, excuse me, something in my throat. The reason that this is so good is because obviously 25% more damage, already just a better exploder, but Giant Slayer just makes it so this is the best trait for killing bosses, especially in Infinite, where the main thing that's going to kill you are the bosses. Having that extra bit of damage, like percentage damage, first of all. Percentage damage when you're like dealing with those super duper beefy bosses, there we go. I don't know why I had like a speech impediment for a second there. Yeah. Percentage based damage when you're fighting those super beefy bosses is huge. So A tier for sure. Best boss killing trait for sure. Heavenly. This gives a 20% damage buff, and it provides the innate perk called Ascension. Gains 5% more range for every allied unit in this unit's range, caps at 30%. This is A tier. This is A tier for sure. It's A tier, but it's nowhere near above Slayer for two reasons. Number one, 20% damage buff, outright less damage than Slayer. Number two, this is just a glorified archer trait. You just get more range. Once again, more range is not too enticing in this game. So the fact that this is giving you a damage buff plus more range, yes, this outclasses everything in B tier and below, but it does not outclass Slayer at all. Slayer is just more useful in my opinion. But this is not a bad trait by any means. Like, it's a mythic trait. If you get this, you should be happy. Next up, Demon. 20% damage buff, plus an innate perk called Speed Demon for every 30 eliminations. For every 30 elimination stacks on this unit, decrease SPA by 50% for 15 seconds. That is crazy. It's probably better than Slayer. Because 50% less SPA means your unit is going to be going crazy for those 15 seconds. Plus the damage buff, I think it's just an overall more higher DPS increase than Slayer and Heavenly, so that's an easy A tier for me. Next up, Ethereal. S tier, obviously. 20% more damage, 5% more range, 20% DOT damage. Never mind, this is going in A tier. Now, I thought it would be S tier, it's not. After reading what this perk does, 20% more damage, 5% more range, that's good. That's universally good on all units. 20% DOT damage, ooh. that really only applies to a very select number of units that actually apply status effects. So, in fact, I don't even think I would put this above Demon. I might even put it below Slayer because, yeah, I'm actually putting this below Slayer because at least Slayer helps any unit. Ethereal only really shines with DOT units. Don't get me wrong, get this on an Itachi, all of a sudden this is S tier, but universally speaking, I really can't put this above Slayer or Demon. Next up, now we're getting into the secret traits. Paladin, 100% damage buff, 10% range buff, innate perk, God's Chosen. Every attack has a 20% chance to trigger a random buff on the unit for 10 seconds. Reduces placement to 2. Obviously, this is an S tier. Double damage, more range. God's Chosen it's a cool gimmick, but it also really helps a lot. A random buff on every single attack. Sure, it's not guaranteed, but it's still going to help you tremendously. Last but not least, Miracle. I'm sure you all saw this coming. This is the best trait in the game. It is S tier, top of S tier. 300% more damage, minus 10% SPA, 20% more range, plus Miracle. When this trait is rolled, gain 1 buff from the random buff pool, reduces place limit to 1. And the random buff pool is Miracle 1, 2, 3, and 4. Miracle 1 gives 15% damage over time. It buffs your DLT damage by 15%. Miracle 2 gives 20% more damage. Miracle 3 gives 20% more money. And Miracle 4 gives 20% more range. So, Miracle 1, 2, 3, and 4, what's best is dependent on the unit, right? So if you're going for an Itachi, then you want the Miracle that buffs damage over time. If you have Kaido, you want the Miracle that gives you more damage. I really can't think of a scenario where you would want Miracle 3 or 4, because more money is good, but you'd rather have the other two, and more range is good, but at the same time, it already buffs your range anyway, so it's kind of like, eh. But I'm sure you don't need me to explain to you why this is the best trait in the game. It just provides the most DPS increase out of any trait on this list. It also gives you the most cost effectiveness because for the price of 1 unit, you're essentially getting the damage of 4 units combined into 1. So yeah, this is my trait tier list for Anime Reborn. I'm sure a lot of you could have predicted this tier list. Maybe you didn't think Ethereal would be so low. I'm sure a lot of people are going to disagree with this, but yeah, this is my trait tier list for Anime Reborn. I don't really predict this changing in the future. Traits are kind of something that are set in stone for tower defense games. They don't really fluctuate too much like units do, but that is going to be the end of my video. If you guys made it till the end, thank you for watching. Have a great day now wherever you are. If you enjoyed the video, like, sub, comment, all that wonderful stuff, and we'll catch you in the next one.